COVID-19 has impacted the work of immigration courts just like every other aspect of our lives. This, in return, has impacted the life of many immigrant families whose immigration status is under consideration. What is going on in the immigration courts? What could be some advice for all applicants at this particular time? Karine Sokpoh is the managing attorney of the Sokpoh Law Group here in Omaha, Nebraska, and I spoke to her a little earlier over Zoom. This is what she had to say. Thank you, Karine, for being my guest today over Zoom.
Thank you for inviting me, and Kayla. It's an honor for me to be here.
So let's start with the first question. Can you please give us a description of the situation? What is going on with the immigration courts right now?
So at this point, the immigration courts are closed for all non-detained matters. So if you are not currently in jail, all those hearings are being continued. So, and at this point, basically, we are having no hearings for people that are not currently in jail. If you are in jail, there are still hearings going on, but they are being done via video for the most part.
So is it only the case here in Omaha? Is this the case for the entire country? How is it a situation?
So it's a bit confusing. It's just not Omaha. And I want to put a little caveat. When I say it's being done generally via video conferencing, that means the client is in jail, appearing via video conference. So the client is seeing the judge on camera. The lawyers still have to go to court physically in order to participate, and any witnesses will still have to go physically in order to participate. So the immigration courts in Omaha are open for detained cases and are taking on those cases. However, each immigration court in the country has a different thing going on. For instance, there are some that are completely closed right now. There are some that are in the same status as Omaha. To add to the total status of chaos and confusion, okay. A lot of the hearings, we are told that they are being rescheduled, but till now, we don't have a date. This, in Omaha in particular, this started back in April of last year, when we were told that some hearings were being rescheduled due to a lack of, we didn't have enough judges in Omaha.
Okay, and this is a problem that the immigration courts had even before the COVID-19, the shortage of judges. Is that right?
That is correct. That has been an issue even before the COVID-19 pandemic. And then a lot of cases were being rescheduled, and nobody was telling the clients when it was being rescheduled to, or even that they were being rescheduled, so they would show up just to be told that they didn't have to come. And that is not, it's not a big deal if you are living here in Omaha. Maybe you took time off to go, but it becomes a big deal for people that are living maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 hours away from the immigration court here in Omaha, and I have to drive all the way here, or fly, or make some other arrangements in order to be here, just to be told it was continued without any prior notice to them.
And do we know the reason why we have that situation?
Basically what I understand is that it was due to the lack of judges. They were waiting for the 2 new judges that we have here now to be settled in, and then reschedule these hearings to put them on their docket. There are judges that have retired very suddenly, so that has also compounded the crisis. Okay. So now with COVID-19, it has just made matters worse.
Matters worse. And we're not talking just about detained immigrants here. We're talking about non-detained cases as well. Is that right?
That's correct.
The hearing was postponed? Okay. Now, when did this closure of immigrant courts because of the COVID-19 happen? Is that a recent thing?
It is. It was, so basically the way we find out about these closures is when we get a notice from the immigration courts, right? And so in this particular case, almost on a daily basis, I signed up on their website to get updates and releases. And so it's been almost a daily thing that we'll get an update saying this immigration court, for instance, New Orleans was closed April 2nd, and they'll have specific immigration courts being closed on specific dates. But I can go as far as, let's see, I believe.
Was it March 18th when the first statement
Notice
came
came
out?
out. That sounds about right. That sounds about right. March 18th, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And, every day there's something.
Yeah. In your do you know if this is the first time that that measures or drastic measures of this kind have been implemented in the immigration court system according to the history of the American immigration courts?
In my experience, this is the first time,
The first
I
time.
believe this is the first time any of us are witnessing any anything of this magnitude, any pandemic, certainly here in the United States of this magnitude. This is the first of our generation.
Yeah. And do we have a return date yet?
Well,
When I say return, when the courts will be reopened to function normally again, is there a date yet?
so there is a date, however, we cannot be sure that, that is the date, right? Because it was being closed up until April 1st, and then now it's been extended. Give me 1 second and I will tell you. Right now, hearings in non-detained cases have been postponed through May 1st, 2020. And as the current orders that we have in place in the country, according to what President Trump has discussed, uh, up until the end of April. So if that gets extended, my guess is that the immigration courts will follow suit.
Okay. How has this situation, now I do have a general picture of the immigration courts around the country. How has this situation impacted your work as a lawyer?
So a lot of my work has to do with immigration, as you know. And so what's happening is that clients, it's not just in immigration court. I want to make sure to say this. This is impacting people that are not even in immigration court, people that have filed for general benefits, like, naturalization applicants, people that were scheduled for interviews. All those interviews have been canceled. All the interviews have been canceled. So even if you were just applying for a green card and you needed to have an interview at USCIS, all that has stopped right now. All those offices are closed right now. So what's happening is that people are going to have to wait longer in order to gain the status that they've applied for, whether it's an LPR status or whether it is naturalization. The
Okay.
swearing in ceremonies have been canceled for naturalization applicants.
Okay.
So that's not happening. For a process that has been known to be quite slow moving, this is the equivalent of a stop.
Uh, Before I move on, when you said that those interviews and meetings are canceled, are they postponed or canceled completely? Will they be rescheduled?
They will be rescheduled. We just don't know when.
Eventually, right? Okay. So before I move to specific examples, I just wanted to understand your work routine right now. You said that you still go to immigration courts for detained cases, right? And in the court is you and the judge, is that right? And if
So
there are
in
witnesses,
in the
there's
course,
mhm, mhm.
so since the pandemic started, since the pandemic started, I have not had an in-person hearing at an immigration court. I've had one hearing that we did over the phone, even though my client was detained. The Judge Morrissey here in Omaha, allowed me to appear telephonically for that hearing.
Okay.
And so that was great. And my client was in jail and appearing also via video, so the judge could see him.
So the judge could see the immigrant, right? The detainee, but you were on the phone. Is that right?
Phone, so I
Okay.
couldn't see either one of them.
I'm sorry, what?
So I couldn't see either one of them.
Okay, but the judge could see the detainee, and the detainee could see the judge. Is that
That's
right?
yeah.
Okay. What is the feeling among your clients, among applicants that are waiting? Do they fear? What is the general feeling? Give us a short description of that side of the story.
They are in fear. They are in fear. If they are detained, they are not only in fear of deportation, but they are in fear of getting the disease in jail. And they are eager to be out of jail to avoid, getting contaminated by COVID-19 inside the jail. So that's a big concern for them. They are also concerned, if they are not in jail, that the status quo is going to go on longer, because the longer they wait, the longer they don't have a permanent status here, the longer they cannot leave the country to go visit any family members anywhere, because they will get stuck out there.
Okay.
So that is a concern for them.
So you're talking right now about the non-detained applicants as well, right? Non-detained candidates. I do have a question. It looks to me like the detainee, when you are detained, your case is more straightforward. Things haven't stopped for you. They continue normally, but there is no physical presence in the court. But for not detained cases, in this case, for example, in Nebraska, you said that last year was postponed by 1 year just because of the lack of judges. This year is postponed even further in a national level because of the COVID-19, at least until May 1st. Now, if I am an applicant, I am non-detained and I'm an applicant, I have started the process. Do I need to do something at this particular moment in order to extend my legal stay here in the United States? How does it work? How do you cover this gap?
So are you saying if you have a non-detained case going on right now?
Yes, that's if I am not detained, but I had a hearing and my hearing was postponed. What happens with my status? Am I allowed to stay in the United States?
Well, you are allowed to stay here for now as the case is still ongoing. And so there isn't much that you will be able to do, or that an applicant will be able to do on their own in order to extend their status. They have really little power in this process. All they have to do, all they can do is to wait to get notice from the immigration court about their new hearing date.
Okay, so they're not at risk of deportation right now just because the case was postponed, is that, or the hearing was postponed, right? Do they have to fill out any forms to get to be issued another document? Is there anything that they need to do at this particular moment to be safe, at least for the time being here in the United States?
What I advise my clients to do is to make sure you keep your address updated with the immigration court, that you let your lawyer know if you ever have a change of address, and make sure you check your mail for that letter from the immigration court when it comes. But that's all they can do.
At this point, that's all they can do. I know that filing for immigration status or applying for immigration status is not a cheap process. There's a lot of fees and forms involved. Do they lose that money that they have already paid? That
So
applicant?
for immigration court, there isn't a lot of money being paid to the government for immigration court per se, unless you are adjusting status, and so you have to pay the USCIS. So if you've already paid fees to the USCIS, then your paperwork is still in process. So long as it hasn't been denied, you don't have to pay new fees. So for attorney fees, that's different, and that depends on each office. But generally speaking, just because the immigration court is taking much longer doesn't mean that your fees should increase drastically.
Okay. That should be the case, you're saying. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't lose any fees. Now, we talked about people that are detained, this group of immigrants that are detained. We talked about non-detained candidates, but what if I need to start an application right now? Can I do that? You also mentioned that USCIS is closed. The offices, the field offices are closed down. But can I still apply online?
Yeah.
Basically, if someone comes to you and says, I would like to see my options and apply for an immigration status in the United States, can you proceed? Can you give a green light to that application if the applicant has a case?
Yes, because if it is with USCIS, they can definitely start a case with USCIS, file an application. The applications are online. They also can be sent to the processing centers. Those are still open. So whatever they've already received or that they are receiving in the mail, they are processing. What is not happening is interviews. You see,
Interviews for the green card, you mean?
For the green card, for naturalization, anything that requires an interview is not happening. Asylum application interviews, not happening. Okay. So all those are not happening currently.
Okay.
However, you can still file, you can still apply and send all your documentation in. And the hope is after the pandemic is over, they will schedule everybody.
Okay. Now, during this pandemic, have you seen any increase in numbers of applicants just because of the pandemic or just because of the fear? Is there any change in numbers of applicants in your judgment?
I haven't seen a huge drastic change. One of the areas that's worth mentioning that I've seen is that a lot of F1 students are inquiring about applying for work permits due to the hardship caused by the COVID-19. And there's guidance from USCIS on their website about how to go about applying for a work permit due to the emergency situation we are in. So I encourage them to review that and apply for a work permit if they are eligible.
Okay, because the work permit actually you can get at the end of your studies, is that right?
You can also get a hardship-based work permit during your studies, so long as you have been here for a year and you have been in school for that.
And we're talking about optional OPT, is that right?
Not necessarily. OPT is for when you are done with your studies, but
Okay.
you can get a work permit while you are in school as well based on financial hardship.
Okay. But what you're saying is different from the OPT, right?
Correct.
Okay. And that is work permit, like a green card holder has a work permit. Is that right?
No, it's an employment authorization document. It's not a green card.
Okay. So I would like to understand a little bit more this F1 student. Let's say I'm an F1 student. I am studying to be a biologist here at the University of Nebraska, and I am a foreigner, and I do have an F1 status. You're saying that because of the situation and the need for workforce, you can apply for a work permit at this point?
Yeah. Yes, correct. If you meet some other qualifications, but yes, in a sense, that is correct. As the problem is, what's happening is that F1 students are eligible to work on campus during the
Yes.
school, then off
Mhm.
campus during the summer and vacation. But right now schools are closed, so that has caused a lot of them to lose their jobs that they had on campus.
On campus,
So,
that's right.
you know, the this will help those people that are experiencing the financial hardship due to COVID-19 to be
Okay.
able to apply for a work permit. For instance, if your sponsor is a successful business person in Wuhan, China, of course you'll be affected by this pandemic, and it will cause you financial hardship if your sponsor is no longer able to send you all the money that he was sending prior to the pandemic. So things like that.
Oh, well, but that is nice to hear that USCIS has considered this option for the F1 students. As a former F1 holder, I do appreciate that. That
Certainly,
makes,
yes.
yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Now you said that they can check the requirements. Is there a specific website that they can go to and check? Is that on USCIS's website?
Yes, uscis.gov.
Okay, and that's the website where they can go and check the requirements, right? Now, I wanted to talk another group of applicants or category, another category actually. Uh, do deportations still continue to this day?
Yes, I understand deportations are still ongoing. I was seeing in the news the other day that 6,000, let me see if I can get you the exact number that I saw. Um, at the border, basically 6,000 people were sent back to Mexico, and out of that number, there were about 330 children.
Okay,
Unaccompanied minors were also sent back. So deportations are still ongoing.
so
Yes.
that they were asylum seekers, they were just entering the United States. Are this group of people, the 6,000, or
So the
the
headline, this
background?
was on CBS News, okay, dated April 9, 2020. U.S. expels 6,300 migrants at the border, shuts off asylum under coronavirus order. So basically, these people were migrants along the U.S. southern border, and this is a March number, okay? And this was done, they were sent to Mexico or to their home countries under a public health directive that officials say allows them to override immigration and asylum laws to curb the spread of the coronavirus.
Okay. Yes, I was aware of, I had heard that news too. Just to summarize our conversation, is there any particular advice that you would give to everyone who is in need of some service from the immigration courts or USCIS at this point? What
You know,
should they be careful about?
my advice to them will be to consult with an immigration attorney. Um, it is difficult right now as a lot of us are no longer doing in-person interviews or in-person consultations with our clients, but we are still doing Zoom consultations, WebEx consultations. So we are doing that via video. And so I will advise them strongly not to file anything without consulting with an attorney first to make sure they are well aware of all their rights and all of their options.
And also, you mentioned earlier the accuracy of your address. Make sure that the address should be updated. Is that correct?
That is correct. Make sure your address is updated. Make sure that you are following the city you are in's directives and health measures. Make sure you are not unnecessarily putting yourself out there for arrest by engaging in criminal behavior.
Hmm. Well, what if one of the non-detained or detained, for that matter, or any applicant is infected by the COVID-19? will that impact the immigration status of that applicant?
Well, I don't believe it will have an impact right away on their immigration status unless they are applying for some type of humanitarian ground to be able to be allowed to stay here in order to take advantage of the treatment facilities available in this country. So if that's what they are applying for, then that will have an impact. But if they've missed, for instance, they've missed appointments or they've missed a hearing due to the coronavirus, due to being ill, they should let the lawyer know right away so that the lawyer can document that and file the appropriate pleadings with the immigration court on their behalf.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know that it is your fourth interview for today, and I appreciate you agreeing to share some advice with all applicants or whoever is concerned with about immigration status in the United States.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on your show, Nkela. It was a
All
pleasure
right.
as usual.
Likewise, stay safe, Miss Sokpoh.
Will do. You do the same.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.